Buddhaya. Good evening. Welcome to the Buddha Dharma TV. I am Karen Tan. Today, we begin our program, as usual, with a Buddhist blessings service. To have the desired calmness, please listen to the chanting mindfully and calmly. Now, let us focus our attention on Venerable Ajahn Achalo as he presents the insightful commentary on Anatta Lakkhana Sutta. Prepare yourselves for a deep dive into his wisdom and guidance. His words promise to enrich our understanding and inspire us to reflect on our actions. Please welcome Ajahn Achalo of Australia to conduct the session 9 of his discussions.
So Lord Buddha had his insight under the Bodhi tree in seeing the constant flux and constant changing of forms, of feelings, consciousness, perceptions, sankharas. Simply by seeing that with very good mindfulness, bolstered by good samadhi, the misapprehension of perceiving it as a self, body and mind, fell away from his mind. His mind was liberated from delusion. We often rush over these things without considering what they are, what is ignorance, what is delusion. So before we move on to enlightenment, ignorance is not knowing, avijja, no knowledge, not knowing. And also avijja has a dark quality. So ignorance, when beings' minds are affected by ignorance, the mind is kind of sheathed in darkness. So it's not just not knowing, it's in the dark. The world is also described loka. Lord Buddha also describes that word as meaning dark. And the world is dark also. So the world is a dark place and our minds are in darkness. Because of that, it's not so surprising that we become deluded. What is delusion? Delusion is misapprehending, thinking things are in a way that they are not. So that's what the self view is. The self view, Sakkaya Ditthi, is a misapprehension, a deluded way of grasping. And it's very common, basically, when there is a feeling of being a self identified with the body and mind, in all beings, they want pleasant experiences and they want to avoid pain. And then you get craving for and craving not for, liking and not liking, loving and hating, wanting all of those worldly wins, wanting good name, not ill repute, preferring praise to blame, wanting pleasure, not pain, wanting happiness, not sadness. How do we address the situation? What do we do about the mind sheathed in darkness, caught in a dark place? Lord Buddha describes in the Eightfold Path: right view, right intention, right thought, right mindfulness. We were talking the other day about the 5 spiritual powers. So those are bright qualities: faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, wisdom. Lord Buddha said these 5 powers, when cultivated, made much of, lead to the deathless, merge in the deathless. So there's a very big clue there. Bright qualities that will shine a path for you to liberate yourself from the darkness. In another one of those weeks, after Lord Buddha's enlightenment in the area around the Bodhi tree, he sat under a different tree, experienced the bliss of liberation, once again was somewhat awestruck, amazed, grateful for his liberation, and reviewed how was this possible. Understanding that he'd reviewed 500, 5,000, 50,000 of his past lives, and then reviewed hundreds of thousands of other beings' past lives, he would have seen just how many beings are stuck in this darkness. And there he was, liberated from it. And then he saw one of those 5 powers. He saw that the 4 foundations of mindfulness, when cultivated, made much of, lead to the deathless and merge in the deathless. Again, a huge hint. It's the kind of thing we would never work out by ourselves. This is why we need a Buddha, because everybody has some fuzzy mindfulness. Lord Buddha explains when cultivated, made much of, this mindfulness becomes a very profound thing. And at first it doesn't seem like that, because we're in our kind of deluded state. We're impressed by peak experiences, we're impressed by vast knowledge, building tallest buildings, diving deepest in the sea, going to outer space. We're impressed by extroversion, extreme sports, fabulous food, exotic and wonderful holidays. And here Lord Buddha is saying a quality of knowing, a quality of presence of mind, of clear knowing, if cultivated, has the power to purify and liberate your mind from every type of suffering. Does anyone think they would have worked that out by themselves? I don't think I would have. It's another reason to be grateful to Buddhas. So when Lord Buddha started to teach, we're about to go through the Anattalakkhana Sutta. when apparently Lord Buddha considered not teaching because he saw that beings relish self, delight in self, it would be very difficult to teach them not self. And most of the religions of the day, when they're translated, there's ideas of realizing your ultimate self, self-realization, becoming one with God, like yourself becomes one with the big self in the sky. Nobody was talking about not self, emptiness, voidness. This was the particular, this is the wisdom, this is the insight that the Anuttara Samma Sambuddhayana, that the Samma Sambuddha had. And then when he teaches the Anattalakkana Sutta, then he saw some beings will understand. Those who have been doing something about their darkness in their mind, those that have been cultivating the 5 powers, developing mindfulness, those beings who have been cultivating, making much of these qualities are ready to have some help having the dust wiped out of their eyes. So when we go through, when I read these verses, it's pretty simple, and we need to understand. It's a pretty simple description, explanation, but you can see what Lord Buddha is doing. He's making those 5 very gifted spiritual practitioners have a close look at what they've been perceiving, assuming is a self, and just asking them, is it? Is it really? And then when it, through logic, it doesn't make sense that it's a self, he instructs them to not regard it as such. And when he does that, the delusion that was in their mind is uprooted, and they experience the unconditioned nibbana just like him. So read it. Listen mindfully. You never know what might happen. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling at Benares, in the deer park. There he addressed the group of 5 bhikkhus. Form, bhikkhus, is not self. If bhikkhus, form were self, then form would not lead to affliction. And one might be able to say in regard to form, let my form be thus, let my form not be thus. But since, bhikkhus, form is not self, form therefore leads to affliction. And one is not able to say in regard to form, let my form be thus, let my form not be thus. Feeling is not self. If, bhikkhus, feeling was self, feeling would not lead to affliction. And one might be able to say in regard to feeling, let my feeling be thus, let my feeling not be thus. But since, bhikkhus, feeling is not self, feeling therefore leads to affliction, and one is not able to say in regard to feeling, let my feeling be thus, let my feeling not be thus. Perception is not self. If, bhikkhus, perception was self, perception would not lead to affliction, and one might be able to say in regard to perception, let my perception be thus, let my perception not be thus. But since, bhikkhus, perception is not self, perception therefore leads to affliction, and one is not able to say in regard to perception, let my perception be thus, let my perception not be thus. Mental formations are not self. If, bhikkhus, mental formations were self, mental formations would not lead to affliction. And one might be able to say in regard to mental formations, let my mental formations be thus, let my mental formations not be thus. But since, bhikkhus, mental formations are not self, mental formations therefore lead to affliction, and one is not able to say in regard to mental formations, let my mental formations be thus, let my mental formations not be thus. Consciousness is not self. If, bhikkhus, consciousness were self, consciousness would not lead to affliction, and one might be able to say in regard to consciousness, let my consciousness be thus, let my consciousness not be thus. But since, bhikkhus, consciousness is not self, consciousness therefore leads to affliction, and one is not able to say in regard to consciousness, let my consciousness be thus, let my consciousness not be thus. After this initial assertion that these 5 khandhas are not self, Lord Buddha then asks the bhikkhus directly to consider these things. What do you think about this, bhikkhus? Is form permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Lord. But is that which is impermanent painful or pleasurable? Painful, Lord. But is it fit to consider that which is impermanent painful, of a nature to change, as this is mine, I am this is myself? It is not, Lord. What do you think about this, bhikkhus? Is feeling permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Lord. But is that which is impermanent painful or pleasurable? Painful, Lord. But is it fit to consider that which is impermanent painful, of a nature to change, as this is mine, I am this is myself? It is not, Lord. What do you think about this, bhikkhus? Is perception permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Lord. But is that which is impermanent painful or pleasurable? Painful, Lord. But is it fit to consider that which is impermanent, painful, of a nature to change, as this is mine, I am this is myself? It is not, Lord. What do you think about this, bhikkhus? Are mental formations permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Lord. But is that which is impermanent painful or pleasurable? Painful, Lord. But is it fit to consider that which is impermanent, painful, of a nature to change, as this is mine, I am this is myself? It is not, Lord. What do you think about this, bhikkhus? Is consciousness permanent or impermanent? Impermanent, Lord. But is that which is impermanent painful or pleasurable? Painful, Lord. But is it fit to consider that which is impermanent, painful, of a nature to change, as this is mine, I am this is myself? It is not, Lord. Then Lord Buddha instructs them how to relate to these things. Wherefore, bhikkhus, whatever form there is, past, future, present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, whether it is far or near, all form should, by means of right wisdom, be seen as it really is thus. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself. Whatever feeling there is, past, future, present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, whether it is far or near, all feelings should, by means of right wisdom, be seen as it really is thus. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself. Whatever perception there is, past, future, present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, whether it is far or near, all feelings should, by means of right wisdom, be seen as it really is thus. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself. Whatever mental formations there are, past, future, present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, whether they are far or near, all mental formations should, by means of right wisdom, be seen as they really are. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself. Lastly, whatever consciousness there is, past, future, present, internal or external, gross or subtle, inferior or superior, whether far or near, all consciousness should, by means of right wisdom, be seen as it really is thus. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself. Seeing in this way, bhikkhus, the wise, noble disciple becomes disenchanted with form, becomes disenchanted with feeling, becomes disenchanted with perception, becomes disenchanted with mental formations, becomes disenchanted with consciousness. Becoming disenchanted, their passions fade away. With the fading of passion, the heart is liberated. With liberation there comes the knowledge, it is liberated and they know. Destroyed is birth, the holy life has been lived out. Done is what had to be done, there is no more coming into any state of being. Thus spoke the Blessed One. Delighted, the group of 5 bhikkhus rejoiced in what the Lord had said. Moreover, while this discourse was being delivered, the minds of the 5 bhikkhus were freed from the defilements through clinging no more. Thus ends the discourse on the characteristic of not-self. It's a very interesting word, disenchanted. What does it mean to be enchanted with form? What does it mean to be enchanted with feeling? It means that we believe that it will deliver us happiness, or hope that it will. And when we investigate the matter sincerely, in a disciplined way, our Lord Buddha asks, how much control do you actually have over these things? It's all arising and ceasing and changing due to previous conditions. Can anybody stop their body from aging? Can we only have pleasant feelings? Can we make our pleasant feelings last? Can we perceive everybody as nice? Can we love everybody all the time? It's usually quite a juggling match, isn't it? Dealing with our perceptions and our feelings and our emotions and trying to keep a balanced approach in life. But when a trained spiritual practitioner simply has a good look and sees that there was another way Lord Buddha described the process of liberation under the Bodhi tree. One was that the craving, the clinging that leads to rebirth is fueled by the attachment to the pleasure that one will get from it. So all of the 5 sense bases, pleasant tastes, sounds, sights, feelings. But then when you have a proper look at the situation, you realize that it comes as a package with a lot of painful feeling, a lot of painful experiences, painful perceptions, painful mind states. And then, so clearly looking at it, initially one is invested in it because one believes. And in a way it's all one has as well. We don't know the other thing yet, so we're going to hope for the pleasant stuff. But he said even the pleasant things that we can experience have the nature of unsatisfactoriness because they cease. We always have to be separated from the very pleasant experience that we hanker after. And in seeing that, the clinging, the attachment, it's like seeing this isn't a good deal. This is a rip-off. There's so much more pain than there is pleasure. There's so much more dukkha. Even the pleasure itself is not truly satisfying. And then the instruction he gave is know the pleasure. It's interesting as well. It's like know the suffering as in the First Noble Truth, no unsatisfactoriness. Well, here he says know the pleasure, see the danger, cultivate the escape. So those 5 bhikkhus had good mindfulness. They just hadn't been directed to see the impermanent and unsatisfactory, not self-nature of the 5 khandhas. When they did apply their spiritual powers in that way, they had very ripe faculties, and delusion fell away. I was saying before, the world is dark. There is that which is above the world, aloka. And fortunately, there isn't just the world and there isn't just darkness. It's interesting that when Lord Buddha does become enlightened, there is a flash of light that fills the entire universe. And most beings won't know what it was, but it was like, whoa, what was that? And the Devas probably noticed, looking down, oh. Going to go through the Nibbana Sutra again. It's very short, but very poignant. It's like a positive affirmation, you know. Remember, this was the Bodhisattva's intuition, strong intuition. Because there are conditions, there must be an unconditioned. And he couldn't find anyone that was teaching it, he couldn't find anybody who'd experienced it, but he had conviction. It must be there. I'm going to realize it. First he tried the extreme of samadhi states, and notice that they are also subject to dying. They arise, stay for some time and cease. They're also in the realm of death. Then he tried patient endurance. What's it like patiently enduring with extreme racking pain? Maybe that will crack the nut, open the trapdoor. Nope. Then he had his insight into the middle way. Some concentration with directed, focused contemplation. Not absorbing into the samadhi, but having enough to have a focused contemplation, just as he asked these 5 bhikkhus to contemplate in a focused way. Form, what's it really like? Feeling, what is it really like? What's its characteristic? Perceptions, etc. So I'll say it in the Pali and the English. Ati bhikkhave ajatang, abhutang, akatang, asankatang. There is an unborn, unoriginated, uncreated, and unformed. No cetang bhikkhave abhavisa ajatang, abhutang, akatang, asankatang. If there was not this unborn, this unoriginated, this uncreated, this unformed, na idang jatasa, bhutasa, katasa, sankatasa, nisaranang panyayeta. Freedom from the world of the born, the originated, the created, the formed, would not be possible. Yasama chakko bhikkhave ati, ajatang, abhutang, akatang, asankatang. But since there is an unborn, unoriginated, uncreated, and unformed, tasama jatasa, bhutasa, katasa, sankatasa, nisaranang panyayati. Therefore is freedom possible from the world of the born, the originated, the created, and the formed. And when he spoke those words, he was abiding in that. His mind was liberated. He was no longer bound. He could use the conditions, still had a body, still capable of talking, but his mind was established in the unconditioned. I know one monk who I believe is an arahant, and I asked him when he spreads metta, and he said he comes out of his, because it's possible for the arahant to abide in nibbana with no perception of the world. So they can take the fruit of their realization as their meditation. So in that experience, there's no 4 elements. No 4 elements, no beings made of 4 elements, no bodies. But when he comes out of that, he spreads metta into what he called the lokadhatu, the worldly element. So the mind above the world, spreading loving kindness into the world. Lokadhatu, that doesn't mean just this world, that means all worlds. Must be pretty amazing to be able to step in and out of the lokadhatu and have loving kindness for all beings. So that is our potential, and it's the potential of everybody, no exceptions. That's an important consideration when looking at the faith, the five spiritual powers, and the first being faith. Some people doubt that they'll be able to do it. It's like only rare occasional beings have this experience. And the thing about Dhamma, another word for Dhamma is nature. In Thai, Thamada, nature, Dhammachat. It's everybody's nature. We all have the same nature, no exceptions. You are not inherently, permanently evil and hopeless. It's good news, isn't it? But if we don't practice to liberate ourselves, we might appear to be for a period of time or for a long time. We do have to make efforts to scrape the darkness out of our minds and liberate them from above the mud of the world. But we have the hardware. When you meet the Buddha's teaching, you have the software as well. And then it's a matter of taking the viruses out, defragmenting, and we don't know how long we have. World's getting stranger. Luang Por Anand says, the world, that word, loka, means darkness, and the more we develop the world, we're developing darkness. So I think the day when people are wearing their phones strapped to their faces, it's going to be harder to liberate oneself. And but we still have the opportunity, so we have to knuckle down, practice. One of the easiest, in terms of, form is impermanent, feeling is impermanent, one of the easiest things to contemplate is the change and cessation of feelings in terms of doing something about the level of delusion in the mind. Just like really picking that up every now and then and noticing the way each breath ceases, the way each feeling changes and ceases. And then the contemplation upon death is another one that apparently Marananusati doesn't lead to jhana, but it leads to Upajjara Samadhi. But Upajjara Samadhi is that space where insight occurs. So it's a good thing to cultivate, anicca sanya. And Luang Por Anand says most of our attachment is based upon the body. So a good place to investigate is bodies. And we tend to think the body is, I've got my knee pain, I've got a headache, my knee hurts, my back hurts. We really do identify with it. And so if we can take a part of it, so when the mind begins to become a little bit peaceful, in the preceptors, when we become monks, they give us a meditation subject as part of our ordination ceremony. Hair of the head, hair on the body, nails, teeth and skin. You actually have to repeat this after the preceptor in forward and then reverse order. So your preceptor is giving you robes and a bowl and a meditation subject. So we train in seeing those things as earth element. You notice that the hair is dry, the nails are dry, teeth are hard, and the bones are wet, but that's a different list a little later on. And if we just, when the mind has some peacefulness, just contemplate teeth and it's like little rows of stones in the mouth. It's not that difficult to see that it's earth element. And then obviously when the body dies, it goes back to earth. And sometimes these things are so simple that people don't understand how powerful they are. But we get seduced or convinced by sophisticated ideas, sophisticated concepts. We want it to sound impressive. And many, many people have liberated their minds by seeing teeth as earth element, and bones similarly. And when a person has enough mindfulness and enough concentration, what happens is the mindfulness picks up the awareness of the bones as its meditation object. It's just aware of bones. And I think Luang Por Nan, in a period of his practice, was able to walk around. In his mind's eye, he saw just the bone, so he perceived himself as a skeleton walking around. But also the other monks, when they walked past, he saw a skeleton walking past, and another skeleton walking past. And so when a person has good samadhi, good mindfulness, trains themselves to really see just the bones, they really do. And I think he was somewhere between Sotapanna and Sakadagami at that point. And these ways of perceiving things does uproot the ignorance and delusion. So just a few hints, things to pick up in the future. Hope that something I said was helpful. Wishing you all the best in your practice.
Let's take a short break to enjoy a beautiful song called Reaching Out, a deeply meaningful and spiritually inspiring hymn.
We carry, give and share with all the faith we have. Let Buddha be the light that dispels ignorance. Let's hold each other's hands, in unity we stand. With harmony we strive, may Dharma be our guide. Open our hearts and mind, look in and try to find in this wheel of life. Reach out and lend a hand, look in, see the blessed path. There's peace within our heart. Open our hearts and mind, look in and try to find in this wheel of love. Reach out and lend a hand, look in, see the blessed path. There's peace within our heart. We carry, give and share with all the faith we have. Let Buddha be the light that dispels ignorance. Let's hold each other's hands, in unity we stand. With harmony we strive, may Dharma be our guide. With harmony we strive, may Dharma be our guide.
Please now join us for our upcoming insightful talk with Venerable Bhikkhuni Aya Anabodhi from Wales of the United Kingdom. She began monastic training in England at Amaravati Buddhist Monastery when she was 24 years old. She was trained under the guidance of Most Venerable Ajahn Somedo. She later moved to the United States to help establish Alako Vihara Forest Monastery, a training monastery for women in California, where she resides now. We are extremely glad to have her on our TV to deliver a sermon entitled Guided Meditation, Radiant Metta. Let's welcome Aya Anabodhi to deliver her remarkably rational sermon.
So metta meditation is such an important part of the practice. You know, we can so easily kind of get small and tight or anxious or lost in our thoughts, worries, plans, hopes, you know, memories. And the metta practice, it brings us away from the thoughts. It brings us on that very important journey from the head to the heart, essential. So I have met people, and mostly when I was in America actually, but I did meet quite a number of people who were practicing metta in their head. Who would practice, you know, they would say these lovely phrases and these really nice intentions, but it wasn't actually landing in the heart. So it's very, even that's better, you know, it's better to have wholesome thoughts than unwholesome thoughts. The real metta practice is in the heart center. It is an energetic, direct experience. It's a transformation of the heart. And it helps us to kind of undo the strong story of self, self and other. And it also helps to undo the attachment to the body, you know, me and mine. So it has this really powerful, tangible, unraveling experience or undoing experience when you really practice it in the heart. And if we continue to cultivate it, so if you just do it a little bit here and there, it's good. But if you continue to cultivate metta, it will actually transform your being. It even transforms on a cellular level in the body, healing, and it becomes like a kind of an energy field that's always with you, that others will pick up on. Animals and plants and people will notice it, and it'll be you start to create a field of metta. So this is the potential. So it takes a bit of work. And there are many ways that we can practice metta. So there are many different systems that have been developed over years. And I've used many different ways, phrases of remembering, you know, may I be well, may all beings be well is one way, very simple way. As long as it comes down into the actual intention in the heart, not just in the head. And the practices in relation to different people, you know, loved ones and people we don't know, people who we're afraid of or who we consider enemies. This is a really good workout for the heart to do that practice. And so I've done many different practices over the years. And the one that I've found really, I guess the one I sort of settle with now, the one that feels most resonant for me, is the radiant practice of metta, of all the Brahma Viharas. And this is from the suttas, actually. So we used to, when I lived in Amravati, we used to chant this chant, I will abide pervading 1/4 with a heart imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a heart imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. And then going through the other Brahma Viharas. So this comes from the suttas, and this is the Buddha's instruction for practicing metta. And I didn't ever really understand what it meant, I must admit, in terms of this quarter and that quarter. And what are these quarters that he talks about? So fortunately, some years later, I was able to learn the practice of radiating metta in this way. So when it talks about the quarters, it's speaking about radiating, generating that quality of metta and radiating it out in front of you. Just like you can imagine like the dial of a clock going around 1/4, and it's just, so that whole quarter is just radiating metta. And it carries on going around another quarter, radiating metta. And it carries on around, all the way around. So all around you, metta is being radiated. And then above, radiating metta. And below, down into the ground, into all the creatures of the earth, radiating metta. So then it becomes like a sphere of metta radiating. So this is the practice that I'd like to bring to you today. Find a posture for meditation that's comfortable enough. It brings a sense of alertness, openness, and relaxation. And just take a moment to find your posture that you'll sustain for these next 50 minutes. So begin by just feeling your body in contact with the seat, with the ground beneath you. Allowing yourself to fully take this seat, fully be here. Not leaning forward into the future, not wandering back into the past, but just being fully embodied right here, right now. Be aware of your breath, just 1 or 2 breaths. And take a deep breath if you like. So you're bringing your attention, reining it in. You're bringing it from all of the things that pull your attention outwards. And you're reining your attention in to this body, this breath, this moment. Now I'd like to invite you to bring attention to your heart center. If it's helpful, you can just touch your heart center. You can put your hand there. It's right at the middle of your chest. And just see what you find there. You know, is your heart open, bright? Some people have written how they feel bright and happy this morning. Some people have written about feeling anxious. Some people might feel heavy. So just see where are you beginning? So you don't have to judge what you find. You just have to know it. Is the heart open and bright, uplifted? Is it trembling? Is it heavy? Is it a bit sleepy? Is there just a sense of numbness? You know, whatever you find, just know that, just as it is. And as you breathe, breathe into your heart center. So I like to think of, you know, as we breathe in, all of that air, that nourishing air that's giving us life, is coming into the chest areas, making space around the heart. It's just a perception that helps to, for me, it helps me to connect with and open the heart center. So as you're breathing in, you're inviting your attention to come down into the heart center. Not thinking about the heart, but being in the heart. And just bring to mind someone or somewhere or some creature that makes your heart smile. Might be a child or a favorite animal or a place or a dear one, a grandparent. And just bring them to mind and let them rest there in your heart and make the heart naturally smiles and opens. So you don't have to work too hard. They're helping us. Just keeping that image in the heart center, allowing your heart to open around that image or that perception. And with each breath, you can invite it to open a little more. So we're consciously generating the quality of metta, friendliness, benevolence, warmth, acceptance. And that quality of metta, it kind of pushes aside. It kind of takes the space, it takes center stage. So all of the worries and the niggles and the rocks and the concerns get pushed to the side. So taking care of this quality of metta, breath by breath, moment by moment. And as you breathe in, you can bring more clarity, more energy to the metta, more fuel. And as you breathe out, I'd like to invite you to let that metta radiate through your body from the heart center. Letting go of the image now, just being with the quality of metta. Inviting the metta to radiate in all directions. So it can be when we do this, it needs a little more help. It stays rather small. So just as I described in the beginning, before we sat, I'd like to invite you to particularly pay attention to the quarter in front of you, the space in front of you. As you breathe in, bringing energy to the metta in your heart. As you breathe out, let it radiate out in front of you. Letting it flow. Not taking issue with how far it goes, whether it's good enough or not, just letting it open and radiate out in front of you. And letting it touch whatever is in front of you, anyone, anything. And now expanding that awareness to like sweeping it around to the right, so that the metta is really focused in front of you and to the right of you. Again, touching and blessing anyone, anything that it meets. And now continuing that sweep around behind you. So the metta is still radiating in front of you, to the right and also behind you, unconditionally, unafraid, unlimited, not limiting it. And then bring it round to the left, sweeping all the way around so that it comes back to where it began. And you have this radiance all around you, coming through you from your heart center, all around, reaching as far as it wants to go, not limited, not bound, free to radiate in all directions. And now letting that, not losing that quality, keeping that going. Also pay attention to the space above you, from the heart center upwards and outwards, radiating up through your body, out into the world. And below, radiating down through your body and down into the earth. Metta is not limited by physical objects. It resonates through everything. So this quality of metta is radiating around, above and below in one big sphere, one big ball of metta, beginning at your heart center. And it's unlimited. It doesn't have to be limited by anything. It's just free to radiate out, warm, bright, loving, benevolent. Radiating for the benefit of all beings. And if you're finding it hard to connect with the quality of metta, just remember that everyone on the call today, at least some of us will be radiating metta right now. So you can take it in from others to get you started if you need to. If you've already got it going, just keep taking care of that source of metta at the heart center. I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world with a heart imbued with metta. So with each breath, we stay connected with the heart center and the radiant metta. Just letting it spread out as far as it wants to go. If you find that your attention wanders, start thinking about other things. What is more important right now? And generating some love and some light, warmth, benevolence in your own being, in your body and mind, and in the world. So needed. In this radiant practice, we're not thinking about this person or that person. We're just letting that quality radiate for the benefit of all beings. And coming back to this being, the one, you, your own body and mind. Letting that metta resonate throughout every cell of your body. Letting it be present in your heart, just as it is, not yet fully enlightened, just like this. And remembering that with each breath, there's an opportunity to connect with this quality of metta, benevolence, friendliness, warmth, brightness. Bing. So I have about 10 minutes post meditation, and hopefully, can keep a little bit of that metta going. Take care of it. It is a force. It is an energy, and it likes to reside in the heart.
That concludes our broadcast for today. Should you have any concerns or queries, please do not hesitate to contact us at info@buddhadharmatv.com. Thank you for tuning in, and we are confident that our programs on Buddha Dharma TV will inspire many peace seekers around the world. Good night, and may the blessings of the Buddha be upon you. Namo Buddhaya.